Our mutual assistance group held its first field exercise this weekend, and I thought I'd share the details with you. Stand by for the after-action report. Cue the intro. First field exercise. We're calling it RMAG FX1, Resilience Mutual Assistance Group Field Exercise number 1. The scenario was, and the scenario wasn't important, but yeah, you give it a little spice and focus. But the scenario was this of course is all pre-collapse. We had a community named Resilience, a neighboring community called Reliance got hit, and they had some people taken, and they came and asked the Resilience community to watch a certain intersection to see if the bad guys were trying to egress that way. So we humped out about 1.4 miles and secured the intersection and ran some patrols and just got some real basic initial training in this. The training philosophy is crawl before you walk, walk before you run. This was crawling, but we went out and we crawled and we learned some stuff. The first thing we learned is that turnout is never going to be as high as you expect. We had several cancellations at the last minute, and guys had some other stuff come up. So there was only 5 of us where we expected to have as many as 8. But it was a good time. It was some good training. The main focus of all this was actually the 1.4 mile hump out with your gear. We wanted everyone to be able to test out their gear, see if they could carry their loads, see how everything worked. If you've never humped with your gear before, you have no idea what's going to rub you where, what's going to cause this kind of blister. You don't know if your boots are any good. I kind of cheated. I was using all military surplus gear that was real similar to stuff I'd used in the Corps. So I didn't learn too much about my gear. We did have a guy, his gear failed pretty early in the exercise. Everyone realized that they were carrying more weight than they were comfortable with. So everyone's kind of looking for ways to reduce the weight on their gear. We did not take rifles. Because this was the first exercise, we didn't want to overcomplicate things. Like I said, we were pretty much just testing our gear, testing our physical fitness levels, kind of seeing where the participants were in all this. I will say physical fitness was an issue. It was only 1.4 miles, but some guys struggled. No one dropped out. Everyone finished, but some guys struggled. And we found out who our studs were. One particular member really stood out. You'll meet him here in a second in the clip. PC James. I knew he was going to be strong. He does a lot of training on his own. I was shocked at how strong he was. He really did a good job. No one disappointed. Everyone lived up to expectations. But that's pretty much it. What did I learn about my gear? First off, that silly little old school elbow flashlight was remarkably useful. It was really useful. We ended up using it on every patrol. We ended up doing the last couple patrols after dark, and it got used every time by the patrol leaders because it was so useful for signaling. Those have a little button on them that you hit, and it just hits a little flash, and that ended up being used on every patrol. Now, is that worth carrying that giant clunky piece of gear? I think it might be. I'm going to switch the light bulb out for an LED in it, and if I can find an LED that'll go in there and work, then I'm going to carry that piece of gear, not just as a gimmick, because it was remarkably useful. And if you could drag out the battery life on those bulky, heavy D-cell batteries, I think it would be worth it. In that same vein, I've talked about it in another video, but everyone's red light. everyone's headlamps or whatever lights they brought seemed to all have to cycle through a white light before they got to the red light, and some of them a blinking white light. Just something to keep in mind, because we wrecked our night vision a couple times with guys cycling through their headlamps. I learned that I don't look as good in the cami uniform as I used to. I had my camouflage cover that I was all excited about wearing, and it turns out when I wear it, I look like a really obsessive train conductor on a hunting trip. A little disappointing. Other than that, I'm going to let the guys speak for themselves here for just a second. Let you see who was all on the trip. This is everybody. Like I said, turnout wasn't as high as we had hoped, but it was a good, worthwhile training revolution, all told.
Hi guys, this is PC James. James, what?
In the dark. And we did. Make sure you take enough.
Barakai?
Bring a little extra water.
Bring a little extra water.
Yeah.
Daniel?
Definitely water. Make sure your gear's, good for hiking. Shoes, good shoes. You need good shoes.
And y'all remember the prepper librarian?
Howdy.
What did we figure out?
Oh, don't carry too much and make sure you got something to sleep on.
Yeah. Leave the library at home.
Yeah. I had some books.
Sleeping ended up being a big deal, right? I mean, we all kind of were on the ground. Our hammocks, we didn't have trees for our hammocks. Where we had to be was
we were under the stars.
Was kind of treeless.
Yeah, have a backup plan for if I have to sleep on the ground. Hammock would be first line, but find something to pad.
But on the
that hard ground, and
we didn't see any hogs, but we heard the coyotes.
And then weight was a big deal too. If we had two, you just can't carry more than a certain amount, right? Especially if you're carrying all that extra water, Barakai.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that was it. Turnout wasn't as good as we'd hoped, but we still had a good time, and it was a useful time, and we'll build from here.
We kept the enemy away.
We won, huh?
Yeah, we won.
Victory.
All right.
Everyone seemed to talk about weight. Weight was a big deal, and it will be when you're carrying everything on your back. I'll tell you a story from when I was in the Marine Corps. You wore the old style camis back then. These I've got on right now, and these have ribbons on the bottom of the trousers. And I knew guys who would cut those little ribbons on the bottom of the trousers off. I think the Army uses them to blouse their boots, but they would cut those ribbons off because in their mind it was adding weight. I don't know what those little ribbons could possibly add, but it's just a mental thing where when you're humping, weight is it's everything. So weight reduction was a big deal. I think everyone realized that. I think most guys, if they ever really got out and did a little bit of hiking with a full load, and we weren't even carrying a full load, you realize how serious weight is. And then you just start finding out, is your gear comfortable? Does it work? Like the one guy found out with his pack strap breaking early on, is it really as good as it, was it worth the money you paid for it? These are important things to know. The patrolling and the hand and arm signals was a nice little bonus added in. It was a good introductory course. Those guys are going to be able to pick up from there the next time around and learn a little bit more, excuse me. But that's it. It was a little step in the right direction, a good team building exercise. I was very pleased when it was all said and done. And we look forward to doing it again in the future and maybe complicating it up a little bit. So there you go. All aboard. Choo-choo!